Good morning. We are continuing with Unit 9. Yesterday we did CO53 with the circumference of a circle. Today we are moving on to CO54. I can calculate the area of a circle. So we did the perimeter and area of our rectangles. We did the perimeter and area of the triangles and trapezoid. For circles, we don't call it a perimeter, we call it the circumference, but it's the area around the outside, like a perimeter. So yesterday we were doing that circumference, which is like the perimeter of a circle. Today we're doing the area. So quick reminder on some of those words that go with our circle. So we have our circle, there's the center. What do we call the line that goes from the center to the outside? That is the radius. So we mark it as an R. So the radius goes from the center to the outside. What do we call the line that goes from one end through the center to another end? Josie? That's the diameter. So the diameter goes from one end to the other, crossing through the center. It's important that it goes through that center point. A line that just goes from one end to another but doesn't cross through the center is not the diameter. Diameter must go through the center. So the area of a circle, remember the area is the amount on the inside. When we did the square rectangle, when we did the triangle, we were able to take the side and the height, right? For the triangle, it was the base and the height. For the rectangle, it was the length and the width, and you just multiplied them to get the area. Well, it's a circle. There's not a straight line. So we can't multiply it easily, just one line and another. So the area of the circle can be approximated by counting all the square units inside the circle. Not easy to do because it's rounded, so we don't have all squares in there. So we use this formula. The area equals pi r squared. What number do we use for pi? Pi equals what, Anthony? 3.14. So we're going to use that 3.14 for our area. I know when we did circumference, we also used that 22/7 for pi. When we're doing area, I've always just used 3.14. So we'll notice there's another key thing in here that we need to know. Our radius is squared. What does it mean when we square the radius? Real? Multiply the number by itself. When we did the circumference, that equaled 2 pi r. That's when we did 2 times the r. Squaring it means we multiply the r by itself. That's how we're getting a very different answer than the circumference. Circumference you multiply by 2. For the area, we multiply that radius by itself. It's important that you remember the difference. So finding the area of a circle. To find the area of a circle with a radius of 3 units, use 3.14 for pi and 3 for r in the area formula. So we know our area formula, area equals pi r squared. So what formula, what equation am I going to write to find the area of this circle? Walk me through it, Brielle. And how do we find 3 squared? So we have 3.14 times 3 times 3. What is 3 times 3? 9. We can do that in our heads, or you can do it in the calculator if you're not sure. So you could do 3.14 times 3 times 3 in your calculator, or you could do 3.14 times 9. So you don't have to, if you don't want to write 3 squared, you could just write 9 because you know that is 3 squared. But if you're not sure what the square is, you can write it out, 3.14 times 3 times 3, and then you multiply all 3 of those numbers to get your answer. So what is 3.14 times 9, Will?
28.26.
And then we have to remember that we need to put our label. We have units. Do I put just units? Units squared, because we had 3 units times 3 units. So if we do 3 units times 3 units, we have 3 times 3, which was the 9. Units times units gives us a unit squared. So when you're doing the area, that label is squared, not the number. Make sure that you're squaring the label. Let's look at another one. Finding the area of a circle. The central performance area at a circus is a circular ring having a diameter of 42 feet. Find the area of the ring. So we have our circular area, Big Ted. The diameter is 42 feet. We know our formula is area equals pi r squared. So what should my equation look like, Gabby? You know the equation. Put in the numbers for me. So what should I write? I'll throw it, Will.
A equals 3.14 times 42 squared.
What do you guys think? Landon, why are you shaking your head no?
Because 42 is the diameter, not the radius.
They gave us a tricky one. This is the diameter, and we want the radius. So you have to be very careful that you're using the correct number. So Will, what should we be squaring? 3.14 times what? What is, if we know 42 is the diameter, what would the radius be? Your turn to help out, Gabby. How did you get 21? Yeah, because we know that radius is half of the diameter. So we divide it by 2. Half of 42 is 21 squared. So in your calculator, and when you're writing out your equation, you could do 3.14 times 21 times 21. So that's what you would put in your calculator. Or you could do 21 squared times 3.14. Either way works. Some of us have the square button on our calculator. Some of us have simple calculators. So we have to punch it in this way. So you could do 21 squared times 3.14. Or you could do 3.14 times 21 times 21. What does that turn into?
1,384.74.
And we need to put our label, feet squared. So it's super important that we remember to check. 21 squared is a much different number than 42 squared. Remember, we only use the radius when we find the area. So if they give you the diameter, you can find the radius by dividing by 2. But you have to remember to do that. Make sure you're using the radius. I'm going to scroll the page up. All right, let's do some more practice. Find the area of the circle. Our radius is 8 millimeters. What equation am I going to write, Lily?
Area equals 3.14 times 8 squared.
3.14 times 8 squared. So what is 8 squared? 8 times 8. What is 8 times 8? 64. So what is 3.14 times 64, Landon? Did you say 200.96?
Yeah.
And then we put our label, millimeters squared. Do I just want to see answers? No. I want to see what work you're putting into your calculator. Do not just write answers. Show me the work that you're doing. You don't have to do the multiplying on the side. I don't need to see that because we can use our calculators. We're doing much bigger numbers. We're in the big kid math. We can use calculators, but show me what you're putting into your calculator. Look at B, diameter is 14 inches. What equation am I going to use? Will W?
8 equals 3.14 times 7 squared.
Why 7? It says 14.
Because it's the diameter.
Because it's the diameter. And we need the radius. So he divided that diameter by 2. So he gets the radius. What is 7 squared? Ryan?
42. I mean, my bad.
Super close. That's 7 times 6.
46. 49.
49. 7 times 7 is 49. So you do 3.14 times 7 squared. 3.14 times 49 gets me what, Aiden?
153.85 or 86.
And then our label is inches squared. C, our radius is 11 feet. What is my equation, Maya?
A equals 3.14 times 11 squared.
Our radius, we want the radius, so we don't have to divide it by 2. Radius is the radius. What is 11 squared? Peyton?
121.
121. So 3.14 times 11 squared gives us what?
I got it.
Landon?
379.94.
379.94 feet squared. Anthony?
So for radius, so for diameter, you have to divide by 2.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember why we divide the diameter by 2?
To get radius.
Because remember, our diameter goes all the way across.
Oh.
The radius just goes from the middle across. So the radius is half of the diameter. So if they give us a diameter, we have to have it. We have to divide by 2. Because our equation is r squared, not diameter squared. So we have to make sure that if they give the diameter, you have to divide by 2. You have to get half of it to find the radius. Last one. This time, they give us the area, and we have to find the radius. So how would I set this equation up if my area is 907.46 yards squared? Will W.
Wouldn't you do 907.46 divided by 3.14?
So let's write our equation out first. Right? So 907.46 equals 3.14 r squared. Because 3.14 is our pi, and then r is squared. So you're right, we want to divide it by 3.14. because we want that r by itself, so we're going to divide by 3.14. So what is 907.46 divided by 3.14 real? Equals r squared. Ooh, it's r squared. How do I get to r? Do you know, Gabby? Yes, we use that thing that we learned at the beginning of the year. It looks like that. What is that?
A root. It's a tree root.
It's a special word for it. It's not just a root, it's a square root. So we have 289. To get rid of that square, we need to find the square root. What is the square root of 289, Regan? R equals 17. The way you could check that is if you do 17 times 17, you would get 289. The square root is that number. If you take that number and square it, they go back and forth, squares and square roots. So on your calculator, you have that square root button.
Yeah, but I don't get how to do it.
So to use it on the calculator, where's my calculator? Here's my calculator. You do the second, and where that square root is, and you put in the number, and equals. Did I do that right?
It's not.
You like press the button, and then you like calculate that.
What is even what's the formula for square root?
Not a formula.
Here, I got the one. Let me try it.
So you just,
Is that a casino?
Tristan asked, what's the formula for the square root?
There's no formula.
So what a square root is it's the perfect square. So they go back and forth. So you know, like 49, what would the square root be? 7, because you know 7 times 7 is 49. So the square root tells you what number multiplied by itself gets you the big number. So you just, if you're not sure what it is, you could do a guess and check. You could say, oh, I know 12 times 12 is 144, and that's 289, so I need to go bigger, and you can guess bigger. Or you could just use your calculator.
Do odd numbers also have square root, or does it have to be a decimal? Like,
There's no
just out of
decimal there.
curiosity.
There's no decimal. Oh,
No, like
so can a decimal have a square root? No, because a perfect, friends, shh. A perfect square is a whole number. So you're not going to have you're right. So it wouldn't be a perfect square, and what we're working with is perfect squares. So you could do 7.2 times 7.2 and then find the square root of that. But we're working with perfect squares, not with decimals. So just for the math that we're doing in 6th grade, we're working with the easy perfect squares. My favorite numbers. Any more questions on those squares and square roots? Okay. I am recording right now, so I want to close this up and then we can talk calculator. Okay, so our assignment for today are the next 2 pages. So page 155, 156. Do I want to see just answers written down? No, I was catching people yesterday doing just answers. Show me the equation that you are putting into your calculator. Anthony was a good example when we were correcting today. He's like, oh, what did I do wrong? I got this answer. And I said, well, what was your equation? And he told me the equation, and we realized he multiplied instead of divided. So we could find it really easy. Make sure you're writing your equation so we know we're doing it correctly. So for my friends at home, we hope you are well, and we hope to see you soon.